Okay, this is the last page of our practice test. And what do we have here? Another transformation with the cubit. What do we do first? We translate it to the right 2. Then we reflect it about the x-axis. I'm going to think about that for a little bit. And then we shift it down, up 4. Okay. Says use the graph of the function for number 23. Okay, so what is the parent function for number 23? Okay, let's look at the back here. There is the parent function. It's got 1, 2, 3 points. Those are the 3 points that you translate. Okay, so what is the translation? The translation is, of those 3 points, you're going to shift them to the left 1 and down 2. Simple enough. Okay, which of these are inverses? Well, there's a number of different ways to do this. One of the ways to do it is we know functions are inverses when we do a composite. For instance, if I do f composite g of x, and I want to know, does that equal x? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, then these two guys are inverses of each other. Well, what if that doesn't work? Well, okay, then we can try the next one. Does that equal x? Yes or no? All right, again, if it's yes, then they're inverses. If no, then they're not. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is, let's find the inverse of one of these functions and see if it matches the other ones. For instance, let's take this one, this g of x function. Let's find the inverse. Okay, so how are we going to start? There's my function. Let's switch the x's and the y's. Let's solve for y. Okay, and I go, well, does that match any one of these? Yeah, this guy right here, it matches h of x. So the inverse of g of x is this guy, which is h of x. So I can say that these two guys are inverses. Right? So either method will work. Okay? Horizontal line test. If the function has an inverse. Okay, now let's look at this parent function. And we can say, is it a function? Yeah, this is a function because it passes the vertical line test. Okay, so this is a function. Passes vertical line test. However, the inverse of this function is not a function. Okay? All right, does not have an inverse that is a function. Why? Because this function fails the horizontal line test. Okay? All right. So I hope that makes things a little bit more clearly. Use the graph of f to draw the graph of its inverse. Okay, so let's go back to the part where we do our answers. Let's look at 26. Okay, so how are we going to get our inverse of this? Well, let's pick some points. Here's a nice point, here's a nice point, here's a nice point. Okay, well, what's the coordinates of this point? 1, 2, x is 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so x is 2, y is 6. So what's the inverse? The inverse is 6, 2. And I'm going to plot that point here. And I'm going to do that for this point, and I'm going to do that for that point, and maybe a couple others if I can find them on this graph. But those three ought to get it. And then I'm going to plot these inverse points. How do I know if I do it right? Well, the inverse function, once I plot it, if I draw this line, this diagonal line, f of x equal x, and if this looks like it has a mirror image across this, and you know you did it correctly. If you get something wonky, go back and check your values and check the points you picked and make sure that you switch them correctly and just didn't make a mistake plotting. And I think, what else do we have here? Oh yeah, domain and range. And piecewise. Nope, that's not right. We've already done that. Domain and range. Here we go. Okay. Domain. What's the domain of this? All reals. What is the range? Well, this thing is going to go up forever, but it has a bottom to it. Okay, so we'll go from the bottom up. So it is -4 to positive infinity. -4 is actually included in the graph, so we're going to make that a bracket. Okay, what are we going to do about this? Again, domain, all reals. Range. This time my graph has a top to it. It never goes higher than 5. Okay, so the range is be negative infinity all the way to the top of 5. And it actually includes that point, so I'm going to put a bracket. Okay, that's it. You master this practice test, you will master the regular test.